Yes, thank you. So thanks for this great overview of ESA activities. We're now moving over with Sarah Noble, Survey Program Scientist, talking about NASA Lunar Science. Go ahead, we see your slides and we
Great,
can
thank
hear
you.
you.
Can you hear me? Excellent.
Yes.
Great. Okay, so I'm here today representing both PSD and SEO, so get the full SMD experience. And I just want to start out by saying, you know, it's a really great time to be a lunar scientist. We've seen all this great science the last few days. There's a lot going on. We've got still LRO and Themis Artemis up there going strong. Lunar Trailblazer and LunaMap. Lunar Trailblazer just passed their CDR. Congratulations, it's fantastic. LunaMap actually just got integrated onto Artemis 1, so it's actually in place and ready to go. We've got CLIPS and Viper. You've heard from folks from both of those this week. And ANXA and Chip also talked earlier this week. So you can see that we've got a lot going on all fronts right now. I wanted to show some pictures that some of the ANXA folks sent of them getting back in the lab. It's so fabulous to see people back in the lab working again. I know it's been a really hard year for a lot of people for a lot of reasons. It's great to see people getting back in the lab, getting back out into the field, and getting back to some sort of new normal, at least again. We keep getting questions about the relationship between PSD and SEO. That is the Planetary Science Division and the Exploration Science Strategy and Integration Office for the students in the room, and how they fit together, right? And so I thought I would go over this again. I feel like we've done this a few times, but you know, it doesn't hurt to go over it again, right? And so this is the basic org chart of the Science Mission Directorate. It's divided into 5 divisions: of planetary science, astrophysics, helio, earth science, and we just added the biological and physical sciences. They used to sit up in HEO, but they have now joined us down in SMD. They've been part of our group now for about a year. Those are our divisions. SEO is a separate office. It sits under SMD, but not under PSD. So it's its own office. It's not a division. It's a separate office. The confusing part comes in the budget. So while the LDEP budget, the Lunar Discovery and Exploration Program budget, is part of the planetary science appropriation to NASA. So if you see the spreadsheets of budgets that come out of OMB, that come out of Congress, you will see LDEP listed under the Planetary Science Division. But that budget is actually executed by the SEO office and not by planetary science. So that's, I think, where some of the confusion comes in for folks. I sit in both offices, and so if you ever have questions and you need to figure out where something sits, you can always come to me. I'm always here to sort of field the interface between those two groups. I also wanted to show the org chart for the SEO office. We're a pretty small group of intrepid, lunatics up here, led by Joel Kearns. He is the Deputy Associate Administrator for Exploration, pronounced that DAX. He is currently looking for a deputy for an associate DAX. Those applications are due August 3rd. So if anybody out there is interested in joining our merry band of lunatics, please do. Please come join us. We are happy to have some help, more help in our office. I also wanted to point out that just since the pandemic happened, we have actually added a couple of new faces that are, I think, very familiar to this community. Both Deborah Needham and Ryan Watkins have joined us. So we've got, now we are expanding a little bit, but we're still a pretty small office. Nimble keeps us on our toes. A little bit of clarification about who does what. Now, to be clear, these are not comprehensive lists, but if you are wondering where things fall, right now, under PSD, we've got the Viper rover, the Lunar Trailblazer, and LunaMap, our simplex missions, and most of our lunar RNA, like CERVI, as well as LDAP, ANXA, those are being managed by PSD. Under SEO, we've got the LRO mission. It used to be under PSD. It's been moved. It's now under LEO. It's now under SEO. We've got all of our CLIPS payloads, and including NPLP and LCIP, as well as the new PRISM payloads. Any Gateway Science payloads, Artemis Science payloads, anything that sort of is cross-directorate across SMD or cross-divisional across SMD or cross-directorate between SMD and other parts of NASA, that sort of integration and coordination largely happens under SEO. Speaking of CLIPS, we keep showing versions of this slide. I think it's really incredible to me. We haven't soft landed something on the moon since like 1972, and just in the next 3-ish years or so, look at what we are going to be able to accomplish because of the CLIPS program. It's really pretty amazing, and I think we saw the talks earlier this week from the PRISM payloads, and I think that really starts to show the capabilities of this and what we can really do with CLIPS as we move forward and they become more capable, and we figure out how to use this program. Just a couple of quick comments on the survey senior review. Most of you know that we are going through a senior review. It's the first time that Survey has done that in their history, so it's been a while. It's a good time to take stock of what we're doing and how we could do it better. Thank you all I know many of the teams have contributed lots of time and effort into this, getting documents to the panel. That panel will meet in late August. The report is due before Thanksgiving. And we are working on communicating with the decadal to make sure that at least they're getting the high-level findings on the timeline that they need them. And of course, those results will then feed into CAN 4. So we're hoping for a bigger and better CAN 4. Some updates on the Lunar Surface Science workshop schedule, and this has been flashing in between, so hopefully you've seen it a few times this week. But just to look again at what we have done, I think these have been, for me, a really great way to stay connected with the community over the last year. Jake and I have really used the information that we have collected in a lot of these discussions in order to sort of build forward as we are planning for Artemis. We recently updated the website, so and most of the reports from the previous sessions, I think all of them are up there now, so please go and take a look at them if you are interested in those topics. We did take a break over the summer. I think we all kind of needed that, but we've got some sessions coming up soon. We've got one in August, the physical sciences with our BPS colleagues, and then a couple new ones. We are planning one in September, looking at science with robotic arms. And that will be sort of a two-part thing where we'll give you some information on the 9th and ask you to go off and think about it, and we'll come back on the 30th for a second discussion. And then in November, we'd like to talk about future CLIPS landing sites. As we figure out how CLIPS works and what the capabilities are and what they could be, we do want to hear from the community about where you would like to go and what you would like to do with these opportunities. And we're also working with heliophysics to get a heliophysics focused one together. That keeps moving around. I think it's likely to be in the fall, but it may get bumped. I'm not quite sure. So keep your eye out for that. We will be sure to let you know. Upcoming calls. I know this is what you're all looking for. I know you all want to participate. We are happy to have you participate. And these are some of our opportunities. Survey CAN 4, I think that's probably the one this crowd is most interested in. We are working to release that draft CAN. Like, as I said, early next year, we want to be able to incorporate the results from that senior review into it. The final CAN will then be released in the spring, and then proposals due 90 days after that. That is the timeline that we are looking at. PRISM 2, that draft is out now. We do expect the final to come out hopefully next month. And the locations for those next two CLIPS landers have been announced, right? That is the South Pole and the Gruithuisen domes. So some exciting science that we can accomplish there. Let's see, LDAP 21. I wanted to point this out mostly because LDAP is going dual anonymous this year. And so even though December 1st seems like it's a long way away, it may take you a little extra time to get your proposals together to make sure that they are in the proper format for dual anonymous. So just a heads up, please pay attention to that and don't get caught off guard. And then the Viper COI call, we got step ones in. If you didn't get your step one in, I'm sorry, they were mandatory. It's too late now. But we got a great response for the Viper COI call. I'm really happy to see how excited the community is about that. Looking forward to getting those COIs on board and joining the team. We're still considering a participating scientist program for PRISM. Decision hasn't been made yet, but we do like to do participating scientist programs where they are appropriate to sort of expand our pool of scientists involved in missions. And we think that, by the time these PRISM payloads are sort of real meaty science, and it may be time to spin up a participating scientist program for that, but we are still debating, so no promises on that yet. And then, of course, the Artemis science team and instrument calls for Artemis. I know that this is something that everybody is excited about and interested in. We don't yet have a timeline for that, but believe me when I tell you, we are working hard to get there. Speaking of Artemis, the Artemis Science Definition Report is out now. It's available. As I said, we're working on planning for commuted science teams. We got some great input in February from the LSSW. We've gotten some great input from the ANCSA folks and from the discussions we've had this week. We are getting a lot of really good input about how to do that and how to put that together. which we are all taking in and working on.
4 minutes.
In the interim, thanks. In the interim, we've found that we need a sort of more rapid response team to make sure that we are addressing the questions from across the Artemis planning, the engineers. Just to make sure that the architecture that we're building is actually going to be capable of doing the science that we want to do. So in response to that, we've put together what we're calling the Contamination and Research Integrity Rapid Response Team, or CARI. This is a slide. This is something I announced at the LSSW, but for those who didn't see it, I just wanted to mention it again, that we've put together this team and they are awesome and working hard to make sure that when the engineers have questions that need science input, that they are getting the science input they need. So really appreciate all of the work that those guys are putting in. The science team itself. So as I said, we are working on this. We are trying to think about how to go about doing it. We're thinking about this in sort of 2 phases. So there'll be this initial sortie phase, very similar to Apollo, short duration standalone, and then a base camp buildup where you're going back to the same place repeatedly. And that's a different way of thinking about things. And setting that aside for now, as we think about the sortie phase, we do expect to have a call for hardware based on what was in that SDT report. No timeline yet for that call, but we are working on it. And then for the geologists, for the science backroom, or whatever you want to refer to them as, we also expect to have a call. We'll probably have a call for a team, a small core team. That will be supplemented by some NASA internal folks, as well as a participating scientist program as we get closer to launch. And so that's sort of the way that we are thinking about putting that team together. And I just wanted, I know I'm about out of time here, and I just wanted to like throw in this last slide. I know we've talked a lot about the moon today and all week, honestly, but it's a great time to be a small body scientist too. And I know Survey covers the small bodies as well. And I just wanted to remind everybody that we've got a lot going on out there as well between OSIRIS-REx, Lucy and DART launching this year, Psyche getting ready for launch next year, MMX, NEO, Surveyor. There's a lot happening in that world too, and I didn't want you guys to feel left out. And that's it. I'm gonna stop there.
Well, thank you. Excellent. We would have time for a question or 2, maybe. If there's anyone, just write it in the chat.
Or feel free to raise your hand in Zoom. Sure. Okay, well, it seems you guys have, oh, here we go. Claudia, do you want to read Parvati's question?
Oh yeah. Do SEO, AGO have plans on how they will interfere with mission equity, recent RFI, e.g. a themed SSW? Sorry.
Interface, not
interface. Yeah, interface with
Oh,
the
I'm
mission
so
equity.
sorry.
That's okay, no worries. The recent RFI.
We haven't talked about that, but a themed LSSW is not a bad idea. We might take that back to the group and think about it.
Okay. And lots of thanks. So I guess we'll move on.